and company supervisors, and we provide divorce coaching and case management for your divorcing employees. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce you to Paulette Rigo. She is a certified divorce coach, a certified divorce specialist, credentialed mediator, and director of coaching and management here at Divorce Right. And together we tackle the biggest disruptor in your company, and that is divorce. And as a reminder, we have SHRM credits for SHRM members, and we'll post a link at the end of this broadcast so that you can grab those credits. And today, Paulette and I are talking about the seasons of divorce. Yes, divorce has seasons. And as an HR director or a member of a leadership team, you need to know when people on your team start to really seriously be contemplating and researching in divorce. So, hi, Paulette.
Good afternoon, Vicki. Great to see you as
Great to
always, and everyone
always.
out there. Good day, everyone.
Well, we want to dive into this because right now we're in a really sleepy time in the divorce world. And that's because I think we're in the middle of from Thanksgiving to New Year's. People seem to put the daggers away, right? They decide this is not the time for us to talk about or think about divorce. Let's get through the holidays and we'll deal with it after, right?
Yes, I don't know that there are any particular statistics on how many people file for divorce or at least reach out and start implementing and gathering facts and kind of starting to explore the process or methods of divorce between, say, Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's. But it's not a lot, right? Because for many reasons, it's just not that time that we want to think about breaking up a marriage and disrupting that. I'm going to call it the Hallmark moment. No disrespect, Hallmark, but we know what we mean. So it's that picture perfect time in life between Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, where there's a lot of family gatherings and there's a lot of company events and social events that we attend. And most people kind of put it on the back burner because it's a very busy time with work, wrapping up projects, family gatherings, travel, gift giving. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? It's that busy, busy time of year. And the last thing most people think about, at least externally, is okay, now's the time I'm going to implement divorce. It just typically isn't. And many of the attorneys also take time off. They're people too. And the courts are a little slower because, well, the courts also take time off too. So it's kind of a triple whammy with the professionals, the courts, and life in general. It's a
Right.
very slow time traditionally.
Yeah, the families. And I think most of all, I think that, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the three times of year that the Google results spike. And we're coming up onto one, which is people call January divorce month. And I was honored a couple of years ago to be quoted in the New York Times about an article about how January is divorce month. And what's really interesting is that pretty consecutively or consistently, the Monday after the New Year's Day has the highest search for the word divorce in Google. And why is that? So I think just exactly what Paulette had said was that everybody kind of calms down. They get they're done. That the tree is down now. That the kids are back in school. And I really feel that children have a lot to do with this, and we'll talk about that as we talk about the three seasons, because we're about to go into the first season, which is January. And that Monday after, in this particular year, that Monday is literally the day after New Year's. So that's going to be a federal holiday and likely a paid day off for most people. So this research this year will likely be done instead of doing it at work. It will be interesting to see if it's done at work or at home. If they wait until they go back to work to do that on, a work machine, a work computer. But I believe that it's because the kids have gone back to school. What do you think?
Yes, that has a lot to do with it. I do see there being this shift both psychologically and mentally about New Year, right? It's New Year. And just when you say that, right? It's a new year, people, right? So, and I
New
don't mean
Year's
New Year's Eve
resolutions,
and
right? New
New
Year's
Year's
resolutions.
resolutions, right? And there's a New Year's Eve with the champagne and all that and the party. But once New Year's Day hits and you see the calendar turn and there's a new number and everything is a blank, right? We get our new calendars, our new journals, our new work schedule. There's always it's a new quarter. It's a whole new everything, a fresh start, a new year, a new perspective, and looking to create something that is more productive if the marriage is not working. And it's all of a sudden like a light switches, and naturally, that Monday after New Year's, whether that be the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, always
Right.
every calendar year, it's a slightly different. So like you said, this year it just happens to be a Monday. But in my situation, it was January that we went to mediation. I think it was actually January 11th, if I remember correctly, and then that failed. So I ended up filing in February. So there's something very common. I know that my phone blows up. My emails are triple. My website is just bombarded with people who are researching and really looking for it because of that exact thing. New year, fresh slate, new calendar, new start. And the little ones are not underfoot anymore. If you have children and they're home, a weekend Thanksgiving, or, most people have that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then all of a sudden, bam, and the college kids are home for a month, Lord help
Right.
us. So you've
And
got
they-
the high schoolers or the middle schoolers are at home, elementary school, for the week of Christmas, the week of New Year's at least. You've got the family vacations, the ski trips, all of that business, and the college kids are home. And then all of a sudden they go back to school and there's a empty house, and all of a sudden you're confronted with the new year, and if I don't act now, it's going to be another year. So January is a very big day. So if you start to see that kind of like excitement about the new year, but also a little bit of trepidation with it's a big shift from the parties and the perfect pictures in front of the Christmas tree or the holiday gatherings, and to all of a sudden quiet. It's like the quiet after the storm.
Right. And I also think that, people look at this, that calendar flipping, and they're like, I'm not doing this one more year. I
Mhm.
can't take it.
Yeah.
So January. So as we go back to work in just a few weeks, HR directors, company supervisors start to recognize
Mhm.
those behaviors of some, sadness and depression and confusion, and suddenly they can maybe be a little bit more erratic because even though you make the decision to start to do the research shows that January is a very big month for research. But interestingly enough, the filing doesn't happen until after Valentine's Day and into March. So
Mhm.
that's that time that people do their research. They start to have interviews with family law attorneys, or hopefully talking to somebody that can give them some guidance and direction, which I love is the divorce coach, because they have that 30,000-foot view and can help that person make the right choice, because it's not always a family law attorney. As much as we love them and we know that they're necessary, it's not always the best option for your employees. So that's what's gonna. I want you to know more about this, because that's what's gonna be confronting you at the workplace in the next 4 weeks,
Mhm. Yeah.
is that people are going to be doing that research. And yes, and so we talked about how divorce is seasonal. So there's a second time of year that that people do a lot of research, and I'm going to go back.
One other day to not overlook in January too is Martin Luther King Day weekend. Not to, but it's a Monday holiday. Most people have that off, and if you have that extra day in January, I find that that's a very busy time when people are starting to reach out. Hey, I've got the weekend off. I've got extra time, and they're starting to do that. And then they come back on that Tuesday, Wednesday after the long holiday weekend. That can also be a second. If you don't see it on the 3rd or the 4th, look out for it on the
Yeah, really, truly, it is the whole month of January. January is just a big time of transition, right? And like we said, that New Year's resolution that, people are saying, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
So now
we do it differently.
Yeah. So we go through January where, the filings start in March. With the busiest time of the year for the word search. January's big. That Monday after January 1st is always big, but it doesn't last for a super long time like it does in May. And again, I think that this has a lot to do with kids getting out of school. That family dynamic is changing and they've gotten through the school year. So now I'm going to do some research and find out what I have to do. They're out of school now. Maybe you've been waiting for them to graduate from high school, or maybe you've been waiting for them to graduate from college before you make your decision. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I find that the end of the school year is a bustling time in the sense that many people who either did their research in January but didn't pull the trigger or pull the plug because for many reasons, this is sort of the second tier, shall we say, the second opportunity, the second window of opportunity for them to walk through. Something may have happened between January and April. And I think it's something like 40 to 60% of divorces filed somewhere between January and April. But the next time, that big, I don't know what to call it, right? That number 2 would be when the children get out of school in late May, right? Middle to late May, Memorial Day-ish weekend. And then up north, the kids get out of school in June. So it's sort of like, I'm going to say mid-May to mid-June. That's that second wave of, this is the time because they're out of school and they're off at camp or their summer vacation or travels. And I've got to take advantage of this time. Usually, Memorial Day to Father's Day.
Yeah. It's and again, we wanted to have this conversation because as leaders and as HR managers, these are just times of year that you just put it in the back of your mind and, kind of watch for it. I think you're going to see it particularly if you're at a bigger company, you're going to see it in January coming up. We are coming into that. So, we'll talk about the third season of the year because there is 3 times a year that there are major bumps and major researches. And then we'll talk about, what as leaders you can do. But the third time of year that I think is really, really interesting is in August, September. And this around that children thing, that's when they go back to school, right?
Yes, it's based on the academic calendar. So if you live in the South and the kids go back to school the first week in August, or if your company is located in the South, and you tend to be a business that has more of that employee base, watch for it in August. Mid-August to say Labor Day. If you're in the North and kids don't go back to school till Labor Day or just thereafter, don't expect it to happen in August because they're still home and it's a little busy. But if your business is worldwide, well, naturally, you're going to have to pay attention to both times of the year. But if it is in the North, New York, Boston, Chicago, etc., it's going to be a little bit more Labor Day to never goes to Halloween. It's always going to be just that first, second, third week in September. That is the big phrase, because now the big phase, the big wave there, because the kids go back to school, and there's a little bit of fear with the calendar year of, now it's so close to the next year, and I don't want to wait another 4 months, and I want to, end the year on a good note. And here we are, wrapping up summer, going back to school. It's
I've
also
always I've always said I am not going on another summer vacation with that idiot again. I'm not doing it. This is the last time.
we have those
Right? I'm not
summer
going through this again.
vacation disasters, right? There's usually a summer vacation disaster, or at least some uncomfortableness. And for those people that are in academia, like teachers, or they work in a calendar school year, that tends to be another time. If you're in the university HR departments or anything in academia, that would naturally be another time. The fall also tends to be in many ways sort of another feeling like it's a new year, because it is like, you can even buy academic calendars, right? So some people buy July to July, and they don't buy January to January, because if you've got children, and many divorces do, and most employees at some point are going to have children, they kind of work through that academic calendar mindset of, oh, new year, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and it always is September to June. So we don't always think about January intellectually as being the new year. So the second new year is pretty much September 1st.
Yeah, it's a new year. To your point, it's a new year of 6th grade. It's a new year of their senior year. It's a new year of the last day of college. All of those things. And so I really believe that people are using these milestones as, like I said, I'm just not taking another summer vacation with that idiot again. Or in the school year is over, and thank God we got through it. I always said that I was going to wait until the kids are out of school. So that's May. And then, of course, as we're coming into a new year here in just a couple of weeks, where, families are making New Year's resolutions, and it's not going to be, I'm not doing these holidays with this guy or this girl one more time. I can't take it. And it's those types of benchmarks. So what are some of the other, you and I have talked about, some of those hallmark moments, but there are other times and other things that kind of get people going and moving. Why don't you tell us about a few of those?
Well, the patterns that I see with those little benchmarks, right? Those little, the things to notice, particularly in this conversation with employees and calendar years and time of years. And it's going to vary differently according to the family, but I notice it's those traditional family gatherings that there's a pressure to stay status quo, right? So for some families, if you hear that there's a wedding coming up, they're going to hang in there until the wedding's done. And then it will be, oh, that's over. Okay, now I can move forward with it. Or those, as you said, we call them hallmark moments. You walk down the aisle and you see all the cards, right? So it's New Year's. And then Valentine's is a big one, Oh, there's so much romance, and it's just such an emotional time for connection. And February isn't that far away from January, that, hey, if I missed out on the opportunity for January, I don't feel like I missed out. I'm not too far behind, right? So
I'm going to wait until after. I'm going to wait
until after Valentine's Day. And then March is kind of a funny month. I mean, what do we've got? St. Patrick's Day. There's not a lot going on March.
It's a big month for filings, though, by the way.
March,
I believe March is the biggest month.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
Late February, March, and early April, right before you get into the Easter, Passover, April vacation. That's another time where there's let's just status quo and hold tight, because it's going to be a family gathering. So, anytime that there's tradition or family gatherings or events, graduations, weddings, reunions, family vacations in a family where you have an employee that perhaps in the past, you know, that there's been a little bit of conflict, and don't be surprised if right after that graduation, or right after the kids go back to school, or right after the wedding, or right after the youngest one goes off to college, you know, that's another time. I always call it staying together for the children. I don't know that that's on the calendar, but when you see that senior graduate in June and they're going off to college in August or September,
Right.
woo, that's almost as big a time as January, because now both of the parties are looking at each other like, "Oh, it's just us. What are we doing?" And the elephant in the living room is now a conversation that the two parties have been procrastinating about. So it is
And by the way, the court system is actually kind of slow in the summer. I know that that's, you know,
very
obviously
slow.
that's the time that family law attorneys are, you know, taking their vacations, because they know that their families are taking their vacations, and then when they're
Mhm.
done with it and they're up to here and they've had enough, their phones start to light back up again.
Right. I
So
mean, the court systems are very cyclical too. So most people have done a little research about that. If they've talked to an attorney and they've started to look at the process and research a little bit more, they might have a conversation with an attorney in December or October, November, December, doing a little planning. And what's the first thing they hear from the attorney that they're interviewing is, "Oh, you know, I take that week off," or I don't see new clients or entertain new clients during the week of Christmas or the week of New Year's, because they have families too and they take vacations. But my observation in all the years of me doing this work would be that 4th of July, the pretty much July is a done deal with not doing much of anything,
right.
because the courts are on vacation. Most people in the courts as financials and attorneys like to take the July off. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of, besides Christmas week or Thanksgiving week, my third least calendar, you know, for you to notice that this would not be the week that they would be filing or doing anything grand. The courts, and, you know, 4th of July is a quiet month in court.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. And trust me, if there were families interested in filing and interested in having those conversations, the family law attorneys would definitely be in their offices. So there is a reason for that. So
Mhm.
as we now know that there are seasons that there's an uptick in interest in divorce. What are some hints and some tips and techniques maybe that you could give some HR managers on how to help these employees that might be expressing some more erratic behaviors, seem extra tense during this time? How can we help them?
The best conversation to have, if you feel like that's a conversation to be had, is, "I notice that you've been blank lately, sad or late or distant or preoccupied," or whatever the behavior is. We can't, it's going to be different for everyone. And you could mention last week, you know, maybe was, how did your holiday go? Or, you know, how was your vacation? Or how was the wedding? Or, you know, like, not that you're looking for details, but just to showing an interest and noticing that their behavior may have a correlation between a calendar event, a vacation, a large tradition that many people like, a holiday, a religious holiday like a Christmas and Easter, a Passover, and also the fall holidays too, with the Jewish tradition of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That can be that's a very big family time for some. It's noticing the correlation between the event and the behavior. It may not have anything to do with it, but if it is, man, are they going to feel supported that you even noticed that they've been withdrawn or
A little
fearful,
off, right? A little off.
overwhelmed, and they may just say, you know, it wasn't it wasn't, you may be surprised and just say, yeah, it wasn't bad at all. It was a great time. And hey, you did your job, right? But just notice that. One other time too, I also notice is tax filing time too. The April 15th business, because many couples want to stay married and file jointly until tax season is over. So it not to say that that is a huge bearing, but I've noticed an uptick with tax filing too. If you have, if April 16th rolls around and you've got somebody like, is everything, what's going on? So, oh, we just had to file our taxes. And then, it's like, that can be a big one too, but it's a matter of just noticing the correlation between the event, the season, those three major times that you'll see it: the new year, kids are out of school, and going back to school. Those are the three major seasons of the year. I know that I clear my calendar in January because there's a big intake of a lot of inquiry, a lot of need of fact gathering and understanding the process. And I do the same come Memorial Day, May, June-ish. And then the fall is quite hectic too.
Quite active. So we're in a quiet phase right now, being from Thanksgiving to New Year's Day, but it will light up in the divorce world soon. So we wanted to spend this time with you all today to give you some insights as to what's going to happen for those of your employees that are in a marriage that is very rocky. And this is going to be something that comes up. So we wanted you to be aware and hopefully have some tools that that you can use. And I want to remind everybody that below in the chat box, if you are a member of SHRM, we have SHRM credits each and every week. So we hope you'll take advantage of that and go to the forum. Paulette, thank you so much for being such a great co-host with me today and talking about the seasons of divorce. And to everybody, we look forward to talking to you each and every week about how to make divorce better for your employees at work as they go through them. If you should have any questions about how to handle divorce in the workplace, please reach out to us at info@divorcerightinc.com. And we are so happy to answer any of your questions, provide any support that you need. Bye-bye for everybody for now, and we will see you next week. Bye, Paulette.
Bye.